Hello all, welcome to our talk show. Today we have Christopher Lewandowski interviewing the legendary Jan H. Blitz and her take on Hamlet. Hello, Mrs. Blitz.
Nice to meet you, Mr. Lewandowski.
Have some tea.
Thank you.
Alright, so we know that Hamlet takes place in the early 1600s. What do you think this shows for the historical standpoint of the play as a whole?
Well, I think this very clearly represents the transition out of the Middle Ages. Hamlet clearly reflects this. The old image of the Middle Ages can be shown through old Hamlet, the king, that's now a ghost. He's merely a ghost now.
Well, what would you say? We have a lot of mention of, one of the only settings mentioned in Hamlet is Wittenberg. What would you say about that?
Well, as you may know, Martin Luther taught at Wittenberg. That's where he hung up his 95 Theses. So, Hamlet and Horatio, who went there, were obviously influenced by this.
Wow, that's interesting.
Okay, Mrs. Blitz. So I was realizing that when you were discussing that Hamlet was a transitional time between the medieval times and Renaissance, I know from my personal knowledge that the Renaissance is a time of immense travel between rich people and royals. Is this true in Hamlet?
Yes, in Hamlet you can clearly see that people are traveling all around the road. Not just royalty, but also middle and high class people too. Reynaldo goes to France to spy on Laertes. The Norwegian army goes to Poland and then goes to Denmark. Hamlet goes to England and comes back. Clearly this is a time when travel is possible and popular.
Okay, one sec, before we continue, do you want some more tea?
Sure, I'll have some.
Okay, tea please. Okay, so I was also noticing in Hamlet how there's a lot of conflict with religion underlying the work, especially with Catholicism. What do you think of this?
Well, Hamlet's internal mind represents the conflict between pagan and Christian values. One emphasizing pride, anger, ambition, action, and the other representing logic, forgiveness, patience. This is clearly a turmoil between Hamlet and is commonly known. Hamlet is always struggling with his passion versus his logic, which causes him not to act.
And what do you think? Do you think these conflicts in religion, or do you think that these traveling scenes is what really shows that it's transitioning into the Renaissance?
I think the traveling scenes really emphasizes it because it's very visual. This takes a lot more reading into to get.
Alright, and we will see this in the scene right now.
Very well said, very well said. Look you, sir, inquire me first what Danskers are in Paris, and how, and who, what means, and where they keep, what company, at what expense, and find me. By this encompassment and drift of question that they do know my son, come you more near than your particular demands will touch it. Take you as you were, some distant knowledge of him as thus. I know his father and his friends, and in part him. Do you mark this, Reynaldo?
Aye, very well, my lord.
Would you like some tea?
Sure.
Alright. So I noticed in Hamlet there's a lot of parallels between good times and bad times. I noticed how in the book there's always mention of an amazing, glorious, gilded age during the time that Hamlet Sr. was alive. Do you mind doing some explanation of this for me?
Well, yeah, the king, as I mentioned earlier, represents the medieval age. There's a lot more noble action going there. He goes to take some land from Fortinbras, kills him in battle. Noble. There's a lot of this. Hamlet is living in a drossy age where there aren't that many noble deeds. Instead of real fights, there's fights of wits and words. Instead of real sword fights, there's fencing matches. He doesn't have as many noble opportunities as there once was.
So you're trying to say that when Hamlet Sr. was alive, it represented the medieval age, and once he died, it represented the switch to the Renaissance.
Yes.
So it was an almighty time when Hamlet Sr. was alive.
Yes, and now it's the drossy age, as I like to call it.
Okay, thank you. Okay, Mrs. Blitz, in this whole Renaissance scheme, is there any two character examples you could happen to tell us that would demonstrate this time period?
Yes, Horatio and Laertes, who are complete opposites, demonstrate this very well. Horatio is all about logic. His family isn't mentioned at all in a story where family is very significant, and getting revenge for your dead family members is almost a drive for most characters. Horatio, the one time he talks about family, says that women are the earth and he thinks to contain a womb. He is born from the earth. He's all about logic and creating his own destiny. Don't you agree?
I do agree. Would you like some more tea?
Yes.
Tea. So what'd you say about Laertes?
Laertes is Horatio's opposite. He's all about the family, all about passion. His family and passion drives him. He's always doing everything to get back for his dead family.
So, you're saying that Horatio and Laertes contrasted represent the difference between the Middle Ages and the Renaissance?
Yes, Horatio is more the newer times, talking about logic and not like connecting with your family as much. Laertes is the reverse, the Middle Ages, where family is everything.
Okay, Mrs. Blitz, is there any other examples that you could say that would very clearly say that Hamlet is based on the transition from the Middle Ages to the Renaissance? And to give more information about the question, specifically, I noticed that there was a lot of parallelisms within Hamlet, and it's very obvious. Does that have anything to do with this transition, or am I just thinking of nonsense?
I think you're completely sane, Mr. Lewandowski. So there's clear doubleness in this. Rosencrantz and Guildenstern, Cornelius and Voltamad. Almost everything has a double, is paralleled with something. Philosophers in the Renaissance thought that you needed this doubleness to act. Hamlet, still living in the Middle Ages, cannot act. He doesn't have this doubleness that most people do. Most actions happen when there is doubleness.
Okay, so is there actions within someone, or the actions that they take?
Both, kinda. So you see Claudius, he kills someone with poison twice, Gertrude and King Hamlet. There's two Fortinbras, his dad, his son. There's two Hamlets, his dad, his son. There's two sons that are both seeking revenge. Fortinbras and Hamlet, Hamlet and Laertes. There's all of this doubleness that you see, and it's all like relating to the Renaissance.
Alright, so I kind of get what you're saying. So all this doubleness really says that Hamlet was based on trying to tell the story of how the Middle Ages transitioned into the Renaissance, and how it contributed different kind of personas.
Yes, that's pretty much what my essay is saying, and what I think Hamlet is really about.
Alright, well, Mrs. Blitz, it's been a pleasure having you on my talk show. I hope that we can do this again, and I feel that this was a very productive podcast. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Lewandowski, for having me on your show.
Anytime.
Good.